Okay, ladies and gentlemen, in this video I'm going to show you the basics of OnShape and show you how to build your first part. So you should be started in the Google Classroom. You're going to look for an assignment titled Basics of OnShape. You open that up, you'll see the instructions. There will be a link there that'll take you directly to the sign-in page at OnShape. You open that up, you're going to type in your school email address that you used to create your account and your password. And then you've logged into OnShape, and you should see a screen that looks something like this. You have no parts because we haven't made anything yet. So there's recently opening. If you have a lot of parts, it'll organize by what you've worked on most recently, what you've created, what you've shared with other people, and then public parts that other people have made and set to public for you to look at. So to create our first part, we're going to go to Create. We're going to create a document. Now, in the context of OnShape, a document is really a project. It can contain a lot of different files all under one document heading. So we'll call this first part. Okay. So the workspace that you'll see when this loads is kind of our typical viewing window. They're going to have some pop-ups that they're trying to offer us. So we have the toolbar full of different tools and features we can use. We have the browser over on the left. To start with, all we have is an origin point, a top-oriented plane, a front plane, and a right plane. And you notice on the right, we have a view cube with top, front, and right visible. And if you think back to the orthographic projection work that we did, we always talked about how our isometric views showed top, front, and right. And our orthographic projections consisted of a top view, a front view, and a right view. So that's why we have a top plane, a front plane, and a right plane. So the basics of part creation is that we draw sketches in 2 dimensions, and then we extrude or use some other solid body feature into the 3rd dimension. Most of the work we're going to do is a simple extrusion. Okay, but when you create a sketch, so up here in the upper left-hand corner, this little pencil icon button says Sketch. You notice there's a keyboard shortcut that says Shift-S, but I can click on that. You notice if I hover long enough, a help menu will pop up in case I don't know what the icon does. Okay, I click on that. As long as this pop-up is here, I am editing this sketch. The sketch is named Sketch 1. I could rename it if I wanted to, but there's no need. This blue pop-up in the center is telling me to select a sketch plane. So right now, my plane options are top, front, and right. And this will depend on how you want to build your part. Do you want to build it front to back? Do you want to build it top to bottom? Do you want to build it right to left? I typically, depends on the part, but I typically build things either front to back or top to bottom. We'll start here. We'll say front. Now, in OnShape, it keeps your view in this 3-dimensional isometric orientation, and it keeps the top, front, and right planes visible. You notice now we have a sketch kind of outlaid around the front plane. And this is all very busy. There's a lot going on here. It can get a little confusing. So what I tend to do is go into my browser, and you notice if I hover over the top plane, a little eyeball icon pops up. If I click on that, it turns off the top plane. And same thing with the front plane and the right plane. Okay, so now I'm only looking at Sketch 1. Okay, and I'm still looking at it from an angle. I'm looking at it 3-dimensionally. I'm looking at it isometric top, front, right view here. So what I could do is I could click on the view cube on the front, and it'll reorient my view. So now I'm looking at it face on. Or I could right-click on it and say View Normal to Sketch Plane. Normal means perpendicular. So I can click on that. And now I'm looking at a sketch, and it's up to me to draw some sort of profile that I would like to extrude through. So I could start with something simple. I could say start with a corner rectangle. And I'll anchor one corner on my origin point, click, and then move, and then click again. and now I have a rectangle. And I could say that's it for now. I'll hit the green check. You have to hit the green check. If you hit the red X, you will delete your sketch and everything you just drew. So you hit the green check to confirm. You notice the toolbar changed a little bit. So I am now outside of the sketch. I can no longer edit the sketch. If I want to go back into the sketch, I can find sketch 1 in the browser, and I can double click on it. And now it takes me back to the original toolbar, and this pop-up is here. And now I can edit the sketch again. Okay, for now, I'm fine. I don't need to edit anything. So, still looking at the part from the front view, looking at it two-dimensionally. Okay, I can change that if I want. Go back to a three-dimensional view. And now we're going to extrude. And this is the first icon to the right of where it says sketch. The keyboard shortcut is Shift-E. And the little help menu gives a little bit more detail on how to extrude. I'll click on that. And the blue highlighted text is always something that you need to do. It's telling you that it's waiting for input. So it's saying, what faces or sketch regions would you like to extrude? Well, this is the only sketch region I have, this rectangle that I drew. So I'm going to click on that. Okay, so there you go. That's the basics of a part creation. We drew a two-dimensional sketch. We have extruded it. Right now, the default is 1 inch. I could change that. I could type in 2. So you got a little bigger. And I'm zooming in and out with my mouse wheel. I could also change the units. I could say 2 centimeters. And it will understand that, and it should shrink once it figures out what 2 centimeters is. Okay, it's a little smaller. I could say 2 millimeters. Has to think a little bit first. All right, that's really thin. If I just type in 2, it defaults to inches. I don't need to type in the IN. I can just hit 2 and then enter. I can change the direction of the extrusion, make it go the other way. So instead of going from back to front, it could go from front to back. Okay. And there's other options that we'll explore later on, but for now, this is it. This is all we need. I can hit check. I now have a part. Okay. I can rotate my view cube around. That's the top view of the part. That's the right view of the part. That's the front view of the part. So on and so forth. Now, one really helpful keyboard shortcut is to hold down the right mouse button and move the mouse. This is what's called an orbit. This lets you move the part around to see all sides of it, which will become helpful later as you add more sketches in or need to add parts into an assembly. If you ever want to go back to the home view, you can click on this corner, or if you can't see that corner, you can click on this drop-down and just go back to the isometric. There you go, it sets it back. So this is a part right now. I could send this to the 3D printer if I wanted to. If I go back and I can still see sketch 1. It's grayed out, but I can see it. I can go back into sketch 1. And it'll take me, notice I'm still on a three-dimensional angled isometric view. Let's put this back to front view. And notice I never gave this any real size. I kind of just drew it. So I'm going to use this dimension tool. Just right of center. On my screen, it's underneath this little speech window bubble. Looks like a dimension arrow in between extension lines. It says the keyboard shortcut is D. Click on that. Now it's waiting for me to click on something that I would like to dimension, something that I'd like to dictate the size of. So I click on this top edge, move my mouse a little bit up, and I can theoretically put this anywhere. It doesn't really matter. I'll click. Now it says, how big do you want it to be? Oh, let's say 5 inches. And a little bigger. And click on the other edge. So let's make this 3 inches. So it has resized my rectangle to be 5 inches wide and 3 inches tall. And I can hit the green check. And remember, we already extruded this rectangle. So what will happen now is it has updated the extrusion with the dimensions that we just typed in, the 5 and the 3. Okay, and anytime you want to do that, you can go back into a sketch, you can change it, make this 2 inches, shrink the rectangle down a little bit, check, and now the extrusion is this. Okay, you don't have to delete things. You should always edit what you have as opposed to deleting them. Okay. So for now, next thing I would do is say, okay, let's place a new sketch. Select a sketch plane. Okay, so now we're not going to use the top, front, or right default planes. We're going to use one of the faces of our part, maybe the top face. So now it has placed the sketch on top. Again, I like viewing my sketches perpendicular. So this is what I'm looking at. I need to draw something on the top face of this rectangle. Maybe I'll draw a circle. I'll put it right here. So notice right now my circle tool is still highlighted. So if I click again, I'm just going to keep drawing circles. I don't want that. So super important keyboard shortcut to learn is Control-Z, which is also available here on the left-hand corner of your screen. Undo. Right? I don't want to create those extra circles. So Control-Z a couple of times, get rid of them. Now my tool is turned off. If it hadn't turned off from the undo, I could right-click, say Escape, or I could hit the Escape key. That would turn it off. So now, notice everything about this is blue, which means it's not locked. I can move it by dragging the center, and I can change the size of it by dragging the circle itself. So those are some dimensions I need. I need size dimensions and location dimensions. So let's do a size dimension first. I click on the dimension tool, click on the circle itself. Let's say make it 1.5. And then I need a location dimension. So how far should the center be located from the left edge? This was 5 inches wide, so we'll go halfway. I'll say 2.5. Or even, maybe can't do the math. I say 5 divided by 2. There we go. OnShape will do the math and figure out that it was 2.5. Another dimension to locate it. How far forward should it be? Remember, because we're looking at the top here. I think it was 2 inches deep, so again, I'll make it the center. 2 divided by 2 divided by 2 to find the center. That's 1. And now everything is turned to black. Black means that it is locked, it is fully constrained, it can't be moved, it can't be edited. So now we can hit the green check. And you'll notice I have kind of a grayed out circle, but it's still there. I can still see it. My sketch is black as opposed to gray, which means I haven't done anything with this sketch yet. I'm going to go to Extrude. And now, when I click on, it still says find the face or sketch region you want to extrude. I still want that circle. The default is to make it grow. That's called an add extrusion. It doesn't have to be an add. You can change its direction, okay? And it will say that's some kind of failure. You can't do that. Well, yeah, you can't add if I'm going into the part. That doesn't make any sense. If I'm going into the part, I'd have to do a remove extrusion. Okay, so now, and again, hold the right mouse button and move your mouse around. Now I can see I kind of made a hole, right, by using the remove extrusion. And I could change the depth, or I could say up to next. It'll find the next face, which should be the bottom, right? Went all the way through. Or I could say up to face. Then I'd have to click on the specific face, which in this case would be the bottom. Or I could just say through everything. Whatever. I don't care if there's anything below it. Just make a hole that goes down infinitely. And then I can hit the green check. Set my view back to isometric. And there we go. There's our first part. Simple rectangular block with a hole cut out. So see if you can make that. And when you're all done, you notice if I go back to the OnShape homepage by clicking OnShape, there's my first part. It's right there. Okay. It appears in my last opened. If I want to go back into it, I can just click on it again. And I can always access it from wherever I have an internet connection. You can access this on Chromebooks. You can access it. You could really even access it on your phone. They have an app. But it's very hard to work with on your phone. I wouldn't recommend it. Okay. So that's it for the first part, and you can look for the next video.